You are now going to start your composition based on these triad types that you have learned. And there are some rules based on this composition and that theory concept, just to help guide you. So let's look at the rules. This will be also a slide in the thing because you can use this as your prep work. It's meant to kind of set you up so that you're all good and happy and ready to go on your composition. So let's look at the rules. I'll check them off as I read. So the first one, you have a composition will be 16 measures long. Great. We know one rule. The next one, you will use a piano as a bass clef for the chords. Great. Your melody will use a violin as an instrument in the treble clef. Awesome. So we got 3 rules. 16 measures long, we have a piano for the chords and the bass clef, we have a violin and the treble clef for our melody. Okay, great. Your chords will be labeled in the file. So once you get into flat, there'll be labeled chords where you have to write those chords. You have to write, the chords as they're requested. Great. The chords will be either half notes or whole notes. Okay. Great. Your melody will contain only chord tones. Watch the tutorial. That's what you're watching right now. So we'll get to that in a second because that's going to be all important down here. All right. So great. Your melody can contain any rhythm choices you wish, except that it must be more than just using whole notes. Or that's basically, I don't want you to just use one note per bar and call that a melody. Choose any key signature you wish, except for C major. Why? Because we are going to use C major as our test key, as our demo here, and then you're going to choose any key you want, and you're going to do the same thing, but in that key. All right, so great. So we said our test or demo key is C major. We're going to write the C major scale just so we have that ready for us. Great, and I'm going to number those notes because it'll be helpful. Great, so now let's write out these chords because these are going to be the chords that you, like these ones right here and these ones right here, that you'll have to write into your thing. So we're going to figure out these chords for the key of C major. Great. So C major, the 1 chord, this is not new stuff, so I'm not going to go slowly on that. Let's go to the ones that are for sure easy. The 5 chord we've done many times, so that's G and B and D. The 4 chord is F, A, C. And then these ones, like the 2, should be also easy because you start on 2, and then you skip the E, take the F, skip the G, take the A, right? Same concept. So our 2 chord is D, F, A. And then over here on the bottom right, the 6 chord, that starts on the A, because that's the 6th note, A, C, and E. Great. Now there's only 3, let's say, more tricky chords, and those are the ones with the different types that we're using. So we're just using augmented and diminished today. So the 1 augmented, well, we know that it's going to be very similar to the 1, so let's just write the 1 chord there. But the augmented means that you kept the first 2 notes fine, and then you raised that top note, the G, to a sharp, because it was natural to begin with in the key of C major. There's no sharps or flats, and therefore when you raise that top note, it becomes a G sharp. The 2 diminished. It's just like our 2 on the left side, D, F, A, and to make it diminished, you have to lower both the top 2 notes. Well, the way I've taught you is to make sure that when you write this D chord, you would have to figure out what the D major chord is. So in the key of D, I'm going to write it up here for a second. In the key of D, we have an F sharp and a C sharp. So the chord would have been D, F sharp, and A. And then to make the diminished, we lower this note and this note. So D, the F becomes F natural, and the A becomes A flat. All right, so now we have our, let's just erase this because we don't need that anymore. We have our diminished chord and then our augmented GBD. So that's the 5 chord, and then we raise that top note to be a D sharp. Great. So right now we kind of have a legend here, so we're gonna just rectangle that off for a second, and we're gonna use that to input the notes into flat for our composition. So we've done the pre-work, now it's just a matter of plugging it in. Let's go to flat. Great, you've gone back to Google Classroom, you found the Triad Types composition file, and it's going to look something like this. So don't forget that we did that work and the notes, and we put those notes in the chords and all that there. And those, one thing I may not have explained in the first part is that those chords also will dictate your melody. Okay, so I will explain that while I compose here. So the first rule was that your composition had to be 16 measures long. Because I'm a nice guy, I've already given you 16 measures here. It also said that you had to have a piano for the bass clef and a violin for the melody. I've already given that to you. So they've given you 2 rules already worked out for you. You didn't even have to lift many fingers to do that. Okay. So it also says you have to write the chords that are labeled here. So we're working in the key of C as our demo key. So we're going to refer back to the notes that we created in the prep work, and we're going to find our chords there, and then we're going to plunk them in. So the 1 chord was, let's make sure we're here and hitting on notes there. So they're the notes. We're going to choose a half note and write in the 1 chord. Since we're using half notes, we need 2 here. Great. I'm going to go in, and this is how I would save some time. Where else do I see a 1 chord? Since those ones are already in my head. Great, over here. I'm going to go back, select that. Maybe I'll make that a whole note this time. Where else do I see a 1 chord? Okay, there's 3 more, so. Back to the half notes. My G went down there, but you know what? It's okay, because we've learned in the inversions that it's okay to have them in a different order. So let's keep it like that. Right? Might make it more interesting. C, E, G here. This E is a little bit too low for me. So let's keep it like that. Whole note. And at the end here, we'll use the root position. Oops. I'm all just messed up here. Let's undo. Go back here. Sometimes it's hard to click exactly where you need to. And let's make this last one whole note because it's the end of the piece. It should have that, maybe that sustained kind of feel to it. Great. So we've written all the 1s in. Now, where else do we need a chord? So I want to point something out here. We're going to write this chord in, the 1 plus. That's also another way of writing augmented. So 1 augmented or 1 plus like that, they're acceptable. So let's write our augmented chord. We go back to the notes that we did in the prep work. We found out it was a C, E, and a G sharp. So I have to make sure that I select that top G and I go over here and write a sharp in. Let's write another one here. Oops, not like that. Have to hold the shift key down, so I'm going to undo. Okay, so the augmented chord can sound a little funny, but we're going to go to the 4 chord, which will help here. So good, and I'm going to make that a whole note. I'm gonna plunk in the 4 chord here. Make this one a half note. We could change the inversion just to keep it interesting. So far we've got some in there. And then, is there another 4 chord somewhere? Yep, over here. Let's make that a whole note. All right, great. And then a 2, which was back into the prep work we did. We found that it was a D, F, A. Make these ones half notes. And then the 2 diminished was D, F, and A flat. And then I select that A, make it a flat, make that a whole note. And then our 5 chord here. Make that a whole note as well. So I'm almost done. I would have to plunk in a few other chords here, but because for time, let's say that's enough for now, you would fill in all your chords as you prep them. And then it said that the treble clef had to have chord tones in the melody. What that means is that if the notes below are like in this bar, for example, C, E, and G, those are chord tones. It means our melody can only have those notes. Okay, we're again using rules to help us in our learning. So I'm gonna start here on the second beat with a G, because that's one of our notes. And let's make that a half note. Move over here and write an E. And now here, our chord tones have changed, right? C, E, and G sharp. So let's write a G sharp there. Put it as a whole note there. So that means I'm moving over. And then my new chord tones in this third bar are F, A, and C. So let's put an A. Since it's really close to that one, sometimes that sounds good when they're like nicely close to each other. Make that a half note. Let's write, let's see, F, A, C. So we can write like a C. And then let's make these eighth notes. So like C, A, back to a C. See, I'm just changing the rhythm just to make it a little interesting. And again, as the chord tones change, that's how you change your melody, right? So these chord tones are all the same, F, A, C. It doesn't matter what order these chords are in. So I can have an F or a C or an A in here. Back to here now, our chord tone is back to the 1 chord. Let's write some 16th notes just because we can. So C, G, G, C, E, and make that one a half note. And now our chord tones have changed, D, F, A. So let's put an A here. I'm just changing the rhythms up as I need to. And then making sure that if I'm going to put a half note in now, but I put an A, but the bottom note here, the A has changed because it's a diminished chord. So I have to make sure that that's an A flat as well. And then we're going to just end here on a G and a whole note. All right. So I'm going to select this first note up here and hit play, and let's see what this sounds like. Might not be the music that we necessarily want to buy just yet, but we're working towards it. All right, so far so good, right? And I would continue along, always worrying about what are the chord tones below, and that dictates what melody notes I can have up top. When I'm done, I'm going to hit turn in over there, and I will only know I'm done when I've been able to check off all of the rules so that I know I've followed the instructions properly. Okay? Thanks for listening.